Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of the Internet Paladins radio show, live from Granada in beautiful Spain. I am Jamal.
And I am the Spaniard.
Indeed. Well, we've got a good show in store for you this week.
We always have a good show in store. And
I think that's true.
That's one of the benefits of all our hundreds of thousands of listeners tuning in. Because if they didn't,
Absolutely.
they'd miss out. Why even get up in the morning, right? That's
and also we have no motivation to continue. I mean, seeing nobody watching our channel would be depressing, and we'd probably commit suicide. But since we have so many viewers, we got the good stuff for you.
We do. I would like to pose a Star Trek question, and that question is this: who is the janitor on the Enterprise? Like, who keeps the place clean?
That is a good question. I'm not really sure. There's got to be someone, right?
Yeah, because I think this question has been raised before, but you never see any of them using the washroom or anything like that. Obviously, because it's a television show, right? You're not gonna, it's not dramatic or anything. Well, it can be. Depends on what was served the night before, but who cleans the place. And we were just talking about meaningful work. Before the show started, we were talking about everyone having a meaningful job on the Enterprise, and everyone enjoying their work and stuff like that. But come on, there's got to be some stuff, some work, some tasks that people just don't want to do, right? So
absolutely.
And and on top of that, they don't get paid. So
yeah. So somebody has to think, gee, I really want to clean up the poop of 1,000 people on a spaceship.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Maybe they don't. Maybe everything's recycled because they can just replicate anything, right? So maybe someone poops and then it's a turkey sandwich.
Yeah.
Because they're just.
So Mr. Worf sits down in the bathroom, and 10 minutes later, Geordie's next breakfast pops out of him.
You just hear this huge galactic roar from down the hallway, and then there's my Jello.
Oh man.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I never really read any literature from the internerds about that either. I mean, there's 5 or 6 wikis packed full of made up Star Trek information, and I just took a quick search here, and there's nothing. So I don't know. Maybe how we have self-cleaning ovens and stuff now. Maybe the whole ship is self-cleaning.
Yeah.
And just sterilizes. Maybe people just drop, as they say in England, they drop trow and leave shits in the hallway, which are then just swept away by. I don't know.
What? Good morning, Mr. Riker.
What?
I think it's time for some news because reality is just as crazy as what goes on in the Enterprise. And I would like to start with an article whose headline reads as follows: Global debt exceeds $100 trillion as governments binge. $100 trillion. So who do we actually owe this $100 trillion to, especially if it's global? So if every nation owes this money, they owe it to each other, right? Which would cancel it out. So really we owe nothing, right?
I guess we probably owe it to companies or something, or I don't know. That's who do we owe it to? $100 trillion. I'm not paying that. Are you paying that?
and how? Where does this $100 trillion even come from? There's not that much money in circulation.
No.
Is there? Probably not.
No.
That's absurd. That reminds me, do you remember that story from 9/11? The families or whatever of the victims suing?
Oh, it was for $313 trillion. Yeah.
Whatever happened with that? Did you ever...
I guess it finally got to a court, and a judge looked at it and just sighed so deeply that he disappeared, and it was thrown out, rightly so, out of court, I guess.
Yeah.
It's just ridiculous.
That is ridiculous. And I don't know.
I think I once tasked you with paying that whole amount of money.
I think you did.
But you failed, so... I
Well, I rummaged around for some loose change, but it's a lot of bones.
don't know.
It's a lot of bones, diggity
Well,
dog.
well, here's some statistics. Apparently, American, household wealth has reached a record high of $80.7 trillion overall.
Hmm.
So the combined house, I'm sure like 90% of that comes from like five guys, but
Yeah.
still. Uh, so yeah, even if all the wealth in the United States was pooled together, it couldn't pay off all that debt,
Hmm.
which is ridiculous. So if the United States can't pay off all that debt, who can? Uh,
Well, maybe.
can Spain? No. I mean,
Nope, nope, definitely not.
we might be able to afford to buy tea for the world, but that's about it.
I think our unemployment rate here is what amongst youth. It's what 25% or something stupid like that.
I mean, that explains why I'm basically tripping over teenagers every time I go to the store because they have nothing to do and they're just lounging around. But, I was kind of the same way when I was a teenager, when I wasn't working on my uncle's date farm, of course. But, you know, uh, date farms are no longer in vogue, so there isn't anyone working on them.
But you actually posed an interesting question, and this kind of segues into the conspiracy corner segment of our show.
Does it? Does it? Does it? Oh, I'll allow it.
Right? Yeah, yeah.
Actually, it was a 5, but go ahead.
Right.
I just did that for no reason.
Well, we were discussing again off show about something kind of mysterious about what birth certificates in the United States, how they're all issued by bank, or at least the company who prints stuff for banks. And what was crazy about it? There was a serial number on the back and stuff like that, and so on.
That's right.
Yeah, and we checked out. We just kind of picked another random country, Canada, and checked out one of their birth certificates, and it's exactly the same thing, and that's weird. So, are these people kind of using us as stocks? Are we being bought and sold, and that's why there's all this debt and money floating around?
That's actually true, according to what I was reading. That in fact, our birth certificates are traded as stocks. I can't remember the name for it, but well, I don't know if our
slavery. That's the name for it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I don't know if ours are traded, but at least in North America, I assume probably here too. I mean, why not?
Mm-hmm.
So all the stocks, sorry, not stocks. The birth certificates are part of some fund that has a code name or something, and is traded. So yeah, basically your life, our dear listeners, is being traded by some guy in a suit who doesn't even know your name, and yet is making money off you.
Yeah.
So do bad stuff that makes him poor, is my suggestion. But good luck.
Yeah, I was astonished when the American birth certificates. Okay, their country is kind of weird and corrupt anyway, so I could imagine that happening. But when I saw the exact same mechanics going into the production of a Canadian birth certificate, that's really weird. And it actually says the Canadian Banknote Company. So, what? So does the United Kingdom have this going on as well? We should actually probably look into that sometime. That would be interesting to find out, because if we start seeing 3 countries, then maybe we could also look into Australian and New Zealand certificates, because maybe this is just a kind of white guy sort of thing. White country. I don't know. It's weird. And
I'm tired of you white people.
White people. All right, let's roll the dice and see what we got coming up next.
Roll a 3. Okay, so we'll be talking about some more news. I've got something that's actually Spain related.
Okay.
That we should look into immediately because this is a good opportunity, but a good opportunity for everyone. There are a number of villages throughout the country that were abandoned by people during our recession, which in my opinion is still going on. So they basically packed up and left villages of a half dozen buildings or so and moved off to find luck somewhere else. And now those villages are for sale for very low prices. There's one that has 32,000 square feet of land, which, what would that be in meters? I'm not so good at math, unfortunately. But a lot.
Yeah.
I guess about 70,000 square meters. I was looking at an American news article about it, unfortunately. But anyway, it has six houses and that much feet of land, and it's $75,000 American, roughly. So,
Really?
yeah. I'm sorry. It was a British article. I got it from pounds, so I don't know what that would translate to in euro these days. But basically, for the cost of a parking space in London, you can buy an entire village in Spain. So that begs the question: which would you rather have, a parking space in London or a village in Spain?
Do you have to pay taxes on that after you
Do you
buy
have
it?
to pay taxes on that? He asks. Yep.
So basically, the catch is they sell it for almost nothing because they know you'll then have to pay property taxes on that every year, and that's kind of, it doesn't cost them anything anyways, right?
Right.
It's free, and then it's a pyramid scheme basically, right?
Yeah. Plus, you have to pay to fix up the properties because they're all in disrepair.
Yeah.
But I mean, they're not in the best parts of Spain. I mean, they're up in the northwest, and since we're a little biased towards Andalusia, we don't really much care for that area. I mean, I guess it's better than going to, say, the United States, but I don't
true. Well, you could buy properties in Detroit for $1.
Maybe we should make an American radio studio in Detroit.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do they? No. Okay.
But again, they're doing this in like the downtown areas so that you'll move in there and start paying property taxes because the land's already theirs, right? It's free, it's theirs. So this is a tax generation kind of scheme. So I imagine that's what's probably going on here in Spain and probably elsewhere around the world as cities begin to collapse from stuff like that. I don't know. It would be interesting to own a town. You'd have to have some way of being able to cover those taxes, though. If you could somehow generate enough income from the town, and I don't mean through tourism and stuff like that, because who wants tourists choking up the place? You'd have to like find some way, some sort of industry to export or something like that. But I don't know. I guess it would be nice to own a town, especially if you were super rich, and it was just like 2 families or something. That'd be awesome.
Yeah. I don't know. I think I would. I think many years ago we talked about the idea of forming a commune. Back when we were hipster young men, and that would be kind of a good location for that. I think.
I'd still love to live in a commune and escape.
Same. I would love to live in a commune of one, just me.
An anarchune.
An anarchune. Just a hermicune as a hermit, but yeah.
I guess you could call hikikomori. I guess they're kind of anarchunists.
Hikikomori. Oh, in Japan, right?
Yeah.
Those nerds that never leave their bedroom for like 50 years. Okay.
Yeah.
My first question is always, what must the rooms smell like?
Yeah.
In many cases, they've probably not left the room itself in 10 years.
Well, they leave to use the washroom and stuff, right? They don't just like.
I don't know about that. Do they?
Yeah, I think. Well, I've read into it a little bit. They actually
they'll just poop in a corner.
No, they'll use the washroom, and they'll actually go to the store once in a while. But it's just that like 95% of their life centers around. Like they'll go to a konbini or something. But maybe that's just the rare cases. At the very least, they use the washroom. I know that.
I remember reading a story about one of them where his mother would place his lunch on a tray on the floor outside of his door, and then knock or ring a bell or something, and then retreat hastily so that he wouldn't have to see her. And I guess his gnarled, darkness bleached hand would creep out from a crack in the door and pull it in. And
see, that doesn't help the situation when you're serving them food. I don't know. That's not.
No, and this leads me to another news story I wanted to talk about
All right.
briefly. I'm sure you've got an opinion about this if you've heard about it, and I'm sure most of our listeners, being from, I'd imagine, North America, have heard about it. The 18-year-old girl suing her parents because they refused to support her.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've got an opinion about that, don't you?
Yeah. Well, you know what's really ridiculous about this? On top of this, she's staying with a friend's family, and it's the friend. It's the father of that family who's conducting the lawsuit. He's the lawyer
Yeah,
for it.
yeah, I know. Isn't that ridiculous? So she is that even allowed? That's a conflict of interest, isn't it? I mean, she's
Well, not
basically
in
been
America, it
adopted
isn't.
by him.
Yeah.
Ah, he's basically adopted her, and yet is her legal representative. I find that a little bit bizarre.
Well, that case was slapped down anyway. So
Yeah, well, in its first thing, they're going to have what, like as they always do, like
yeah.
75 more appeals until finally a judge says okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know what's next if that gets past Americans. Is it going to be that if the 13-year-old doesn't get a PlayStation, he can sue his parents for that, or
Well, that's one of the arguments that the judge actually made. Like, it's a slippery slope. If you set that sort of precedent, every little slight suddenly becomes an infringement on human rights. Like, how things are in England right now.
Yeah.
So that kind of culture is.
I don't know. Would Mr. and Mrs. Spaniard have allowed you to sue them for money once you were 18?
No, the idea wouldn't have even crossed my mind. It's an entirely different mindset, entirely different generation.
My father, if I threatened my parents with a lawsuit, my father would have tied me to the back of a camel and driven me into the Sahara, and that would have been the end of me. So I'm very, very happy that I didn't grow up with that mindset, because I'd be dead right now. My sun-bleached bones being picked at by scorpions. So aren't really a lot of scorpions there, but picked at by something. So.
Well, see, generations of children are emerging, and this isn't just in the United States, but also in China and probably elsewhere. They've never known what the generations before, maybe the one or two generations before them have known, the hardship they have known, the hard work. I don't know, because you could also make an excuse that for the boomers it was actually kind of easy, because you could just wake up and have a job that paid you, $30 an hour, because there's 50 unions fighting over, who got to, represent you. But I don't know. Either way, young people today, they were born into an era where everything's there, everything's easy, no one challenges them, no one spanks them. Like, they just don't understand reality. Like, if civilization stopped tomorrow, they wouldn't get it, because
no,
they
totter around outside looking for someone to blame, and they would die.
Yeah, and
which I would laugh at.
And that's kind of why society is kind of collapsing in on itself, because with each generation, they take another step away from reality, right? They just don't get it. Like the people who came out of World War II, like the veterans and stuff like that, they understood reality because they waded through it, for so many years. But then you started getting, politicians who, they were veterans of World War II, stuff like that. So they were still in the loop. Then you start getting people who were not really veterans, but kind of, ghosts from the Vietnam era. Then you start getting people who have no military experience at all, like you do today. Like George Bush, Obama, people like them, because there have been no wars for them to participate in. So, they kind of, they just, career politicians. And, young people follow in their footsteps. And so just, society can't continue on this way. And here, I got another headline that kind of segues into this.
All right.
America's war on obesity is an assault on our liberty. So basically,
what?
Here I'll read a little bit of the article. There is a glimmer of hope for the fat countries of the world. For Mexico, which has recently outstripped the U.S. as the most overweight population in Americas, and for Britain and Hungary, which vie for the title of Europe's most obese nation. basically, fat people are tired of being legislated against. They want the right to be fat, which is okay. They have the right to be fat. Anyone has
Mm-hmm.
the right to be fat, to take drugs. I think that there should be no drug laws or alcohol laws and stuff like that, because every individual, the choice is theirs to make.
Sure.
But it's not right that they get to enjoy the health care that everyone else pays for either. That's not fair, right? That's like saying, well, it's not like saying anything. It's just, it's just like being an idiot, but someone else has to pay the bill for that. That's not fair, right?
No, not at all. And I think I've read articles about the obesity problem in North America being one of the most expensive drains on their healthcare.
Mm-hmm.
Is you get all these fat people, and being fat isn't an injury or an illness, but it's the things that being fat give you that send them to the hospital: heart problems, digestive issues,
And when we say
injuries from falling down.
And when we say fat, we don't mean like just someone who's bigger. We mean like fat as in people who eat gratuitously. You know what I mean? Like they just
you see on TV those people who it's like, I eat 8 pizzas every day, and they're shown on TV with like a gigantic desk-sized slice of pizza halfway down their throat already. The people like that. Have you heard the phenomenon called feeders?
Yes, I have.
Yeah.
And it's horrible. And because it's horrible, I think you should explain it.
Okay.
For everybody.
Feeders are, I guess you could blame the internet, but maybe it happened before that. We like to blame the internet for everything, so let's blame the internet. Basically, a feeder is a person with a fetish or some kind of sexual attraction to horribly obese people. And what they do is they pay for this fat person to eat for their entertainment, and they will watch as they eat and get bigger and bigger and bigger, and that seems to be a mutually beneficial relationship because the fat person can have free food as much as they want. All their needs are paid for. There's also offline versions of this where maybe a man has married a fat woman and has the same attraction, so he just stuffs her face. Well, there was that woman I think we talked about who fused to her toilet seat because she'd been sitting there eating for 6 weeks or something like that. Do you remember hearing about that?
I think I do, actually. Oh.
Yeah, she was sitting on the toilet for so long that the skin on her ass cheeks actually fused to the material, and she had to be surgically removed. So. And people immediately asked, like, how did she not die? It's because her husband was bringing food into the bathroom, and she was eating and shitting and eating and shitting. And that was, and my question is, why didn't she just stand up when she felt that something was wrong down there? But I guess mental issues. I don't know. Too fat to stand.
How did she sleep? Is that all she did was just eat and poop?
Maybe she just kind of like relaxed a bit and sagged into her own mass, and it was like a feather bed. I don't know. I just don't know. All
right. Let's roll die quickly.
Yeah. I don't know. Okay. Well. Just 3. Well, I can't roll the same number, so let's try that again. What were you laughing at?
I don't know. It's just I don't even know what to call it. Just silence of resignation, I guess.
Yeah, resignation. All right, 1. Well, I guess another news article. I do have one more thing here.
Right. Well, let's roll again. We've done like 3 or 4 news. Let's just
yeah. Actually, I've got something that hopefully will come up. Let's roll the one again. You know what? The die is going to take a little break because it's not cooperating with me.
Okay. How about we do a 1 and 2 is a 4, a 3 or 4 is a 5, and then a 5 to 6 is a 6.
All right. Okay, I've just rolled 3 1s in a row. Pretty sure in some kind of game that would have been miraculous. Yeah. So. That's a 1 and a 2. No, sorry, that's a 4. You said, right?
Yeah, so that's a fight, isn't it?
I believe that's a fight. And I did you have one prepared?
I have. Okay, let's. I have a whole bunch prepared, but we can do yours if you want.
Why don't you flip a coin?
Okay, I will flip a coin.
All right.
We are very indecisive people, as you can.
We are.
Okay. Heads. The Spaniard. Tails. Jamal.
All right.
Flipping now. Oh, and of course I drop it on the floor.
That almost landed in the flower pot. You should be careful.
And of course now I cannot find it because.
I think it went over there.
Okay, let's try that again.
Okay.
Flipping
Yeah.
again,
Okay.
Flipping again. Okay, it is heads. Okay.
So you get to pick one.
Yep.
All right. Hit me with it.
Tom Cruise
Ooh.
versus Keanu Reeves.
That's a good one.
Tom Cruise versus Keanu Reeves.
Man,
Both are worthy actors, I think.
I think so.
Many would disagree, but
Their opinions do not matter. So,
not on this show.
no, Tom Cruise is an excellent actor. Keanu Reeves is an excellent actor. So,
Yeah. Well,
I guess this is a fight, not an act-off. So,
yeah. Well, not yet, anyway. So let's.
Yeah,
So the fist fight.
all right. I'm going to give that to Tom Cruise, but I think maybe
I think
people look at The Matrix and think, Neo is Keanu Reeves, but I don't know how much of that was actually his own ability and how much of that was just like choreography and CG and stuff.
Yeah, that's true.
And
yeah,
I don't know. Tom Cruise is in a lot of action movies, so
yeah, that's true.
I don't know.
But in those action movies, he's basically just running and getting punched, isn't it?
True. Can Keanu Reeves run far enough and fast enough that he won't be exhausted by Tom Cruise? Because Tom Cruise is the champion of running. Except, I almost wish he'd made this Tom Cruise versus Matt Damon, but that'll have to be another day. Physical fight. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, Keanu Reeves, he did undergo some training for The Matrix, and apparently he was pretty industrious with that training. But I don't know if that translates into him suddenly possessing any fighting ability or anything like that. So, I can't even imagine either of them punching anybody. Okay, because Keanu Reeves, he's a pretty cool guy, right? He's a pretty nice guy. But then you have Tom Cruise, he essentially started the movement of not being a jerk, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
Like this is, I don't know, I'm going to say draw.
I don't know. I think.
No, you still think Tom?
Well, Tom is trained in Krav Maga, so
is he?
that might give him the edge.
Okay,
because
I didn't know
Krav
that.
Maga basically gives you the edge over everything. That seems to be its general nature.
Yeah.
I don't know how much of it he knows. I just know that he trained in it for something. As a workout, maybe? Let's see, there's some data here. Oh, this is an advertising thing for a fitness company, so I'm not going to use that as fact. Yeah, but let's say it's a draw. I think both of them would be pretty badly injured, but I'm not sure who would win. So what's the next?
Who's the better actor?
Oh man, I'm going to go with Tom. Again, maybe I have some favoritism issues, but Keanu is kind of the same in all of his movies. He does a good role, but he's kind of always the same guy. Then again, so is Tom. He's kind of always the same guy, isn't he?
Yeah.
And there are people screaming at the channel right now. They both suck, and
well,
you're entitled to your opinion.
Have you ever seen Keanu Reeves' lesser known? Well, not really lesser known, but probably his earlier movies like My Own Private Idaho and.
No, I've never heard of that.
No. Keanu Reeves is actually theatrically trained, so in the Shakespearean way of doing things.
Interesting.
So.
Tom Cruise just kind of does things his own way.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, here's a question, man. Whose movie would you rather go see? A Tom Cruise movie or a Keanu Reeves movie? If you have to pick one.
Oh. That's impossible.
It would be a people's matinee.
Yeah, it would be a people's matinee. It would be a people's matinee because like if The Last Samurai came out and we saw that and that was awesome.
Oh yeah.
I don't think we've
Still
ever
one of my
seen.
favorites.
We haven't ever seen a Keanu Reeves movie, have we? I don't think we have.
In the theater, no, I don't think so.
No.
He hasn't, I guess, made as many movies as Tom Cruise, which could be partly why. Did we see the third Matrix? No, that came out.
No, I saw that.
No.
With Steve, actually, I think.
Steve. Oh
Yeah.
man. Okay.
So long ago that was.
Were you actually looking at the movie, or were you doing something else?
One of our writers, one of our fans has written in with a question, and the question is, dear Jamal, why do you grease yourself in butter and hop up and down on Scottishmen until you scream?
That's a very good question, anonymous writer. I'm going to answer that by saying that I don't. And what?
What do our fans know, right? What do they know? Jeez, jerks.
Who would write something like that?
That person is just a terrible person. That's it. That's the beginning and the end of it.
The level of disease required in a mind to come up with something like that is beyond comprehension. That's all I can say. I pity that man.
You know what? I think ultimately at the theater I would rather see a Tom Cruise movie because they tend to be awesome sci-fi action movies and stuff like that. Have you seen what was that one? Oblivion.
No, I'm waiting to watch that. I've got that on a shelf right now, actually. I'll probably get around to that very, very soon.
Oblivion
I know.
Two excellent sci-fi movies.
Yes, I think I've got both of them on my shelf here, actually.
I think Oblivion
Yep, there they are.
is probably one of the best sci-fi movies to come out in probably the last decade. That's how good it is.
If you disagree with the Spaniard, let us know why, and we won't read your response. But,
it's really good. It is.
All right.
And you know why it's really good? Because Tom Cruise is in it. And,
right.
And if he wasn't in it, I don't know. You haven't seen the movie, so I can't really talk about it because it would probably spoil it for you.
And then I'd have to kill you. But yeah.
Have to kill me. So, yeah. You know what? I'm going to declare this contest a truce because I think they're so equal that we're not going to get anywhere, and there's no real wow factor in this contest. So,
I mean, the only thing really is that Tom Cruise could have the Scientologists, make him disappear or something like that. But I mean, that's not really fair.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
Actually, with any luck, after a week, he would reemerge as like the new lieutenant of Scientology, right beside Tom Cruise, which would be pretty cool, actually.
Yeah.
But all right, so let's move on to another topic then.
Yeah, let's do that.
All right, a 5, which represents a 6 this time, if I'm not mistaken. So that's a conspiracy corner.
Conspiracy corner. And you know what? I think we can tie that into some current news. Let's talk about Flight MH370.
I have a feeling you'd bring that up.
Which has vanished, apparently.
Indeed.
So what do you feel about that?
Well,
first let's actually explain it. Why don't you explain it for people so people know what's going on?
There was a plane that was leaving, I believe it was Malaysia, on its way to China, I think.
Yeah.
And it vanished suddenly, which is kind of odd because passenger planes filled with people don't usually just vanish.
No.
Even if they're going to crash, like it takes half an hour for planes to glide down to the ocean or something. So it's a little strange that it just plummeted into nothingness. And there's been all kinds of fishy reporting from various governments, delays in saying what happened. And there's been even the Chinese government is being critical of the cover-ups that are going on about this, which tells you that it's crazy. There was something like 220 people in the plane, all of them presumed dead. There's some babies on there, some kids, I think. And the strange part is 4 men with stolen passports.
Yeah. And it just gets stranger and stranger because, those four guys with the stolen passports, everyone's just saying, "Oh, it was a crash, probable plane crash," and now they're suddenly sneaking in FBI teams and stuff like that, which is a little bit shady. You think, if it was terrorism or something, they'd let people know.
Mm-hmm.
And how long has it been now? What, 24 hours?
No, it's
48 hours?
been 40, I think almost 48 hours, yeah.
There's families waiting in Beijing and in Kuala Lumpur who want to know what's going on, and and there's no word at all. There's nothing. And every couple of hours, you'll get a little snippet of information. Oh, we've seen an oil slick, but we don't really know what this oil slick is from. Oh, we think we've seen a little piece of debris, but we're not really sure, what that means. And this is the problems I have so far with this story. When radar was tracking this plane, and you can actually watch it on the radar or the flight tracker, whatever thing on the internet to see how it was flying. And 2 hours or so into its flight, it was at between 32,000 and 35,000 feet. Just normal altitude, cruising, no problem. And it went from that to zero instantaneously. Its altitude went from 32,000 to zero, which is impossible, right? A plane can't do that, which means it probably exploded, right? If we are to assume what happened, my guess would be an explosion. What would you think?
I would have to be. I mean, even if the wings snapped off and it started plummeting, it would still take a couple of minutes to fall to the ground from that height. So, I mean, there's such a thing as terminal velocity. So, I mean, even a really heavy plane isn't going to hit faster. So, it must be either a bomb or they were shot down. I'm not sure which. Either option would lead to very interesting discussion.
Yeah.
So,
and I agree with you. That's what. There's a paradox with all this, and our assumption creates a paradox, because if it was shot down, or if it did explode in the sky, where's the wreckage? It should be on top of the water, right? But they can't find none of it. There's no wreckage. And let's go the other way. Let's say it did, say there was a problem with the radar, and it just crashed into the ocean. And it disappeared into the water, let's say. I don't even know if that's possible with zero wreckage, but let's just say that's what happened. How did it go from altitude 32,000 to zero so abruptly? It's very peculiar. It's very, very strange. And I don't know. I just don't find any explanation so far very satisfactory, especially now that they're blaming terrorists and stuff like that. And to add to that, I got something you might find interesting. A group, apparently this is floating around on Chinese blogs, a group called the Chinese Martyrs Group or something, are now claiming that it was them who did it. So, you know about the stabbing, right, in China?
like the 33 people that were killed by the army of knife men?
Yeah, which they're blaming on the Uyghur Muslims, even though there's pretty much zero evidence. Do you feel that those things could be related? Do you think this could be to get at China somehow?
Could be. There was a group of 22 Chinese artists or something on the flight.
Oh, 90% of the flight were Chinese. I think there was mostly Chinese people.
Yeah, there could be some anger at China. There is some anger at China from what we've read. So maybe people are pissed off at China, and because China basically plants its flag on everything in Asia and then threatens everybody until they agree it's theirs. So, there are records indicating that the Chinese sailed to Europe many hundreds of years ago. So don't be surprised if next week there's Chinese men outside our office demanding that we give it to them. But that could be. I'm going to be watching the news for a while to see what else happens in China, because I'm anticipating that this is just the beginning.
Absolutely. Now let's look at the events in the past week. I think it's been, number one, first there's the crazy stabbing, right?
Yeah.
Number two, a report comes out of nowhere, strangely, that a North Korean missile barely missed a Chinese plane, which is really peculiar, because the story appears, then it just suddenly disappears. And then right at that same day, almost, I think it was the same day, suddenly a plane containing mostly Chinese people just vanishes. I don't know. It almost seems like a conspiracy against China. Now, there's some, like you said, there's some conspiracy theories floating about. Like maybe the plane has actually landed somewhere. It's been hijacked. I've heard some really silly, crazy things like, oh, there's a cloaking device on board.
Cloaking device.
Like a stealth kind of thing.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, they'd be able to get through that if they really tried to. I think.
One really interesting theory, which I would like your thoughts on, is that the plane was hijacked. They turned off the transmitter or something, were able to get it to disappear from radar somehow, and have landed in one of the abandoned airfields from the war in Vietnam, or Cambodia, or Laos. And the plane is actually somewhere there, and the people have been taken hostage. Do you think that's possible?
I don't know. It's possible. Is it likely, though? I think we would have heard something by now if they were hostages, because... Yeah. They would demand something, right? They wouldn't just be like, "Hi, you're hostages," and then do nothing for weeks. So, I think maybe unless they've been enslaved or something, I don't know.
I don't know either. It's truly mysterious. This is one of those things where it just defies explanation. And I'm looking at a Sky News right now, and there's no updates. Like, how could you? Yeah. There's like 5 different nations there with ships and planes. And there's no updates. There's nothing. The same story now, missing plane suspected fragments found. And they have, if you go to Sky News, go to news.sky.com, you'll see a picture there. It looks like a life raft or something. And they're saying that is the piece of debris, which is really weird. How does a whole plane just crash into the ocean?
Looks like a banana chip. It could be anything. I don't know.
It's kind of shady. So, I don't know. I think that's a good conspiracy corner topic. And if anyone knows anything or has seen anything on blogs and stuff, put it in the comments, because we would like to know what's going on.
And despite what we say, we actually do read things like that. So, yeah. Please do.
We'll just have to keep track of the story, I guess. And if something comes up, we can maybe talk about it in our next show. But right now, everyone's in the dark. Families, us, governments. Well, I'm sure the governments. So someone knows. They're just not.
We have no idea what's going on. So I'm rolling the die.
All right.
And it looks like it's going to be another fight. I've got one prepared for you.
Let's go.
This is going to step up the scale a little bit, and it's going to involve nations. Well, not entire nations, but groups of them. Okay. So, in the blue corner, we've got a famous Japanese man by the name of Tokugawa Ieyasu, the very first shogun of fame, anyhow, not the first shogun. And with him are approximately 6,000 samurai. Okay. So we got Tokugawa Ieyasu and 6,000 men. I guess assorted samurai and ashigaru, the peasant infantry. And the red corner, we've got none other than a very famous Roman general. Can you guess which one I'm going to say?
No,
it is Julius Caesar, or Julius Caesar to you foolish Americans, with the entire Third Gallica, which was, I believe, one of his favorite legions from the conquest of Gaul. So you've got Caesar and Third Gallica versus Tokugawa and some elite samurai. Who wins?
Where are they fighting?
In a neutral, flat terrain area, so that neither of them has any home field advantage. Let's say they're fighting in a field in Australia, just so that they have no experience about terrain. It's going to come down to their skills and their equipment.
All right. Very interesting. Okay, do they have an even number of men, or?
Roughly. Let's see, how many men were in an entire Roman legion again? 6,000 legions could contain as many as 6,000 fighting men. So, yeah, let's say approximately, typically composed of up to 5,400 soldiers, divided into 10 maniples, later into cohorts of 480 soldiers after the Marian Reform. Course. So let's say it's going to be during Kaiser's time, so it's going to be the manipular system. So 5,400 soldiers divided into 10 maniples, which are their fighting groups,
Right.
versus an even number of samurai and ashigaru spearmen, archers, and so on. Do you know what the ashigaru would have used as weapons?
Not so much. No.
Mostly spears,
Okay.
and the yumi, the Japanese bow. The samurai would have fought with spears as well, swords, of course, and the naginata, which is kind of like a halberd, and bows.
Are there any cavalry or anything like that?
Sure, yeah. The normal number of cavalry that would have been in the legion, and however many the Japanese would have used. I think the Japanese would have had a cavalry advantage in numbers. So who do you think is going to win?
Who do I think is going to win? Now, let me think. This is really interesting. Because they would have fought with very different tactics, wouldn't they?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One would almost be a sort of a sea of people kind of attack, whereas the Legion would be more of a system attack. This is a really tough one because they both have their strengths.
Mm-hmm.
So in a straight up fight, I would say the Romans would probably win.
Interesting.
Because the Romans are used to fighting a rabble of troops.
Absolutely.
But I don't know if you can consider the Japanese a rabble of troops. So
not under Tokugawa. That guy was a military genius. However, they did not fight in tactical formations or anything even close to that. I mean, the samurai would have, especially in the earlier times, would have picked off an opponent from the other side and had a duel. Pretty sure the Romans would have slapped that theory down pretty quickly. So, so they would, I guess, they'd be fighting, but kind of coherently. But I don't think the samurai really were trained to fight as a military unit.
Yeah.
They were just a bunch of individual masterful warriors.
Yeah.
But the Romans are a machine, so I don't know. Yeah.
I think ultimately the Romans probably would win simply because they are a machine, and it's really it was that machine that brought them so many victories, right? So
absolutely, yeah. I mean, people can look at the technology and say, oh, come on, look at the katana. A samurai with a katana can basically cut a main battle tank in half. But I mean, science has shown that the katana, while sharp, is kind of made into a magical weapon in movies. It can cut through a man pretty easily, but it can't cut through steel. It can't cut through iron. It probably can't even cut through bronze very efficiently. So it's a slashing weapon, right? I mean, the legionaries were not wearing full plate mail by any means. So I mean, all it would require would be the samurai to find an opening, and they'd find some weaknesses. But I mean, the Romans weren't just going to stand there. They had those gigantic shields that were almost body length, and people seem to picture like shields as medieval warriors using them, just kind of like holding them in front of them static. But I mean, they use them fluidly to block incoming blows, to protect the guy beside them. So I don't think it would have been possible for a samurai to find an opening so easily. Plus, the gladius is a short-range weapon, so if the legionnaire can get close enough, the katana won't be so effective at short range, and all it really takes is one stab from the gladius and you're dead. However, I think that this samurai would have been pretty skilled. So I think in a one-on-one fight, the samurai would defeat a legionary, but I think on the field, 6,000 men versus 6,000 men, you weren't fighting a guy, you were fighting 6,000 guys who were all trained. So. They were fiercely proud of Rome, of their general, Julius Caesar. I mean, fighting for him would inspire even the lowest man to greatness.
For sure.
They trained from childhood, and so did the samurai, but the Romans trained in military drill. They were basically, United States Marine Corps of the ancient era. And the samurai had no discipline like that. I mean, they had Bushido discipline, personal discipline, but they didn't have combined arms tactics or anything like that. So I think They would expect the Romans to break off into little groups or to flee, and they wouldn't, and it would just be a wall of swords and shields approaching them.
Yeah, and that's precisely why I think the Romans would win, and probably win easily, simply because every army the Romans fought against were essentially like how the Japanese would fight, right? The Gauls, the Germans, they all fought like a mob. And so the Romans would be at least sort of used to that, whereas the Japanese never encountered someone like the Romans, right? Until they were eventually beaten by actual armies with gunpowder and stuff like that, right?
Exactly, yeah. And with the... sorry, go on?
Oh, well, I was just going to say, it's probably that defining feature. It's just the Roman experience of fighting armies like Tokugawa's that would give them the edge.
I think so. I mean, the Japanese have one kind of advantage, which is their archery, which was incredibly superior even compared to Western counterparts in the medieval times. However, the Romans knew how to defend against arrows. They could form the testudo formation with their shields. I mean, that would be... I don't think the Japanese would expect that.
No,
so they would be surprised by that.
They would.
They had horse archers, and the Romans did show throughout history that they couldn't really deal with horse archers very well. But I don't think the bulk of the army the Japanese would field would be horse archers. There'd be some. That would definitely be a thorn in the Roman side, but I don't think it would defeat them unless they were horribly outnumbered. So the bows would be kind of one advantage, but I think the Romans have one secret weapon that the Japanese would not expect. So picture the two armies approaching each other. The Japanese are sprinting forward, and the Romans are calmly marching forward as a block. Yeah. And suddenly, every Roman reaches behind him, grabs a javelin, and hurls it into the... So, and they had 2 or 3 of these things. So before they closed the Japanese, half of them would be dead already. So... I don't think they would expect that.
See, the entire Roman army is basically engineered to fight armies like Tokugawa's, because that's what Rome was surrounded by, right? Barbarians. Yeah. Not that the Japanese are barbarians, but everything in their army is engineered to be able to attack an opponent that moves en masse, that's relatively disorganized, that fights basically on an individual level rather than on a systemic level. That sort of thing, because that's the only real opponents they'd ever gone against. So, and Tokugawa has never encountered a Caesar. So,
no. The interesting thing I think would be if they fought a second time. I think that would be different because Tokugawa would have had time to think about the battle, and he was no slouch, so he would have probably come up with some ingenious ways to approach that battle a second time.
You'd have to use some sort of asymmetric warfare. Like you'd have to pull Hannibal style tactics against the Romans to be able to defeat them. You couldn't just, even if Tokugawa organized his army and then went head to head, I think they would still lose. He would still lose. But if he used some crafty tactics, I don't know. He would have to. He's a military genius, so only he would know what he would do. But I don't know.
I think the only way the Japanese would win if it was the full might of the Roman Empire versus the full might of Japan in a battle, because I think the Romans they had. I think they might have had up to about 200,000 men at the height of their empire in their military, something like that, which is, can you imagine 200,000 legionaries closing towards you? Yet, at the Battle of Sekigahara, I think, the one where Tokugawa won the shogunate, there were over 2 million men involved in that one skirmish alone. So I think the manpower of Japan would have overpowered the Romans eventually.
But the thing is, though, even though there's 2 million men, what are the qualities? Are they all samurai?
No, of course not. No, most of them are peasants with a spear. I mean, they knew how to use it, but they're peasants. They don't have the bushido quality of the samurai. So
see, if we look back to Western military tradition, Alexander faced almost exact same odds, right? And he, it's the quality of the troops plays a large role in who wins. I don't know. See, a lot of inter-nerds, they talk about, China's armies were so huge that they were just rolled over European armies, and I completely disagree because the European armies were of such a high quality.
Right. Although, here's an interesting fact, little known to many people, the Romans actually had a skirmish with the Chinese.
Really?
And this was interesting. In the far, far, far east of their empire, in fact, it wasn't even in the Roman Empire. I think it was in Parthia. And what I believe is that the legion was actually a legion that was captured by the Parthians, who did kind of whoop the Romans' asses repeatedly in battle, just because they had so many horse archers. But I think this legion was fighting for the Parthians at the time, but they were still a trained Roman legion. They encountered a Chinese army that was sent to, I guess, secure the Silk Road, which was highly in use at the time. The Chinese sent men, through India to the Middle East and stuff to just make sure everything was still going well.
Yeah.
And these two armies encountered each other, and the Romans had their asses handed to them soundly by the Chinese because of one thing: the crossbow. So the Chinese, they were basically using firearms. So the Romans, their shields were not strong enough to stop a crossbow bolt. So it's interesting. However, they, being the Romans, ended up taking that idea back to Europe, and the crossbows eventually became widely used there. Although some historians argue that they were inspired by a Greek weapon, but I think there may be some combination there.
Yeah. Well, the general idea or mechanic, I guess, of propelling an arrow kind of makes sense. So I guess. Sure.
Yeah. I mean, the Romans used a large version of that in their ballista, so just shrinking it down into a handheld weapon. Yeah. So
wasn't that weapon banned once in Europe or something?
The crossbow?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was by the Pope, because it was considered unknightly that basically and we are, in case you guys are not able to discern, are not pinnacles of martial prowess. We could pick up a crossbow, and after 10 minutes of fiddling around with it, we could kill a knight who'd spent 20 years training with sword and lance. And so it was seen as unfair that some peasant rabble could kill these noble warriors, and so they banned the crossbow for that reason. And everyone agreed, except, of course, the bandits. I'm pretty sure they had crossbows, but they didn't really listen to the Pope as it was. So yeah, most... I don't know if everyone, but most European armies in Christendom at the time did away with the crossbow, which was stupid, because had one army kept the crossbow, they would have taken over all of Europe, including the Papal States, and could have just placed another pope there. Because in reality, I mean, did they really listen to the Pope that much? I don't know. Sometimes no. So a puppet pope would have been a useful thing to have.
Really interesting.
And here's the thing: had the Pope excommunicated that nation using crossbows, they could have just killed him, replaced him with their own Pope, who would have then recommunicated them. So, and with the kind of hypocritical beliefs back then, that would have been okay.
Yeah,
so,
it's and the same could be said today. The AK-47 or 74 now that they use. It totally equalizes things in many respects. I remember reading something about a U.S. Marine. He was, or not, maybe not a Marine. Yeah, maybe. I think he was a Marine. Yes, and he was at the DMZ in Korea, and he was asked about, like, do you fear, the starving North Koreans, with their antiquated technology and stuff like that. You think they'll even stand a chance? And then he only said one thing, and it's a really important thing, and he said that the bullet is the great equalizer, right? So just like the crossbow equalized the battlefield, the bullet, you can get a starving North Korean with an AK in his hand, and it doesn't matter if you've had 10 years in hardcore U.S. Marine training, right? You're just as dead.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, yeah.
You can walk around the corner and trip a shotgun trap that kills you, left by some kid or something, and your training will help you there. Well, actually, training might help you prevent that in the first place, but if you don't, you're dead. So, yeah. Well, it's interesting. Yeah. So there's one other thing. People always talk about the going back to Japan versus Rome. They do point out the very noteworthy 1,500 years of technological development separating the two times. You have a classical era army versus basically a high medieval period army. So they had steel and very refined techniques in Japan at the time. Their armor, the lamellar style armor, which was pretty good. The Romans had bronze, iron, There are some theories suggesting that they did have steel later on, but I don't know if they would have had it that during Kaiser's time or not. But it doesn't really matter how good their weapons are. I mean, as far as quality, because a samurai could kill somebody with a stick. Mm-hmm. They're that good at battle, and so could a Roman. So basically, it doesn't matter what weapon they're using. Just like the bullet, right? You're just as dead if you get stabbed with a bronze sword as if you're slashed with a steel sword. So I don't think the technology would really matter so much in that battle, although some nerds might disagree. But technology alone doesn't win wars.
No, it doesn't.
It's how you use it. So, yeah.
I would say technology contributes almost nothing to winning a war, to be honest.
No. If we sat down in front of a nuclear silo, we wouldn't know the first thing to do. So we would prove right there that the technology is useless. So, yeah.
Pretty much every war I can think of, in many places technology did play a big role, but it was the skill in using that technology. And so many wars have been lost, even though superior technology was present. Like, for example, Vietnam, Korea, Iraq, Afghanistan. It goes on and on, right? Like, the Americans just continually lose. Despite having... The Americans right now could probably take on the entire world and win, technology-wise. But they always lose, because they don't have the political will, and they just don't have... I don't know, they don't have the X factor that Vietnamese guys huddled in their spider holes have, I guess.
Yeah, although every single American would probably violently disagree with you on the fact that they've lost all their fights. But, I mean, if they have won, then why are those conflicts still going on, right? So, yeah, but, I think basically we've decided that the Roman legion would butcher Tokugawa's army in the first battle. A rematch might be a little different, but in the initial skirmish, edge goes to the Romans. And I think we've got time for one more thing quickly here. It's been a while. It's time for the Inquisition. And since I posed the battle to you, I think you should inquisit me.
Okay. I think we actually got our rules wrong. I think we should have reversed them. I think but I don't know. Okay.
That doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter at all.
We'll double check that for next time. But yeah.
Okay, let me. I got a whole list of interesting questions here.
Oh God, he's gonna pick one that's really awkward.
Oh, I have some really awkward ones, but I don't know. I want to choose maybe a lighter one, because we've been talking about some pretty serious stuff today. An ecological crisis strikes the planet, forcing everyone to ration their food.
That's light?
Compared to the other ones, yep. This basically results in everyone being able to eat only one type of sandwich for the rest of their life. What type of sandwich would you choose, and why?
That's an interesting question. Just a little clarification. Must I eat the sandwich for every meal of every day?
Every meal, every day for the rest of your life.
So the sandwich is the only thing I'll ever be eating again, eh? Okay. I'm going to want your answer after I give mine, because this is interesting. And we want your answers in the comments, too. What sandwich would you have? What sandwich would I want for the rest of my life?
And you got to consider multiple things here. You got to consider taste, number one.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of now.
And
there's nutritional value.
And nutritional value, because you got to stay alive, right? You can't just pick something that's super delicious and you're going to die in 5 years because you've eaten it. So
I've got it. This is perhaps the best choice that I like. I like a turkey sandwich that has, or even a chicken sandwich, I suppose, but we're going to go with turkey because I can pick it. So turkey meat, thinly sliced, on rye bread with some fresh vegetables. I guess I have to say what they are. So there'll be lettuce. I don't know if I put onion on this one, I think. No. Lettuce. Maybe some thinly sliced cucumber, which I enjoy in a sandwich. And a bit of cheese. I'm going to go with some British cheddar, which I like. And the final ingredient that adds a little bit of excitement to this. Cranberry sauce.
Okay.
And so I've got, to reiterate, rye bread, thinly sliced turkey breast, cranberry sauce, cheddar cheese, lettuce, and cucumber slices, and maybe a bit of black pepper as well, just for spiciness. And that covers all the main food groups as far as I know. So
yes, it does.
And I've had sandwiches like that many times, and they're incredibly good. So I think I would still go crazy after a while, but I think I could tolerate it for a bit longer.
All right, level 2.
Uh-oh.
Conditions become a little bit better, and you can choose one side dish to have with your sandwich. What do you choose, and why?
One side dish to have with my sandwich.
Like, do you have an apple with it? Do you have a bowl of chips? That kind of thing?
I do like chips, but they're not particularly healthy. I would go with a bowl of mixed nuts.
That is a good answer.
Because I like mixed nuts. No comments. I like, the food mixed nuts. I know what you're going to say. And they're very good for you. They have high energy, high fat, high calories. So just having a small amount of nuts will keep you going. So I'm going to go with that. Is there a level 3?
There's no level 3. Okay, there is a level 3.
Oh.
Things get even better. You get to choose one beverage.
I assume I've just been drinking water until this point?
Yeah, water, I guess.
I would probably go with coffee. I really enjoy coffee. I drink
so you got all healthy stuff, and then you pick something that's
I gotta balance it out somehow. I don't know. I really like coffee. It's probably my primary drink throughout the day. If I'm concerned with preserving my health, then I'd probably go with chamomile tea.
Yeah.
Or apple juice, which I highly enjoy. But drinking that every time would give me massive heartburn, so I don't think I would do that.
What,
so chamomile tea, I need the low acid stuff because I'm an old man. So I think the either coffee with milk or chamomile tea. So what's your answer to the 3 stages of that question? I'm curious. You're not going to get away with
I haven't really
countering wisdom.
I haven't even thought about this deeply, so I'm just going to pick something that I think I would really enjoy. That would give me energy, and would provide variety. My answer probably isn't nearly as good as yours. That was really good, especially the bowl of nuts. I would pick a meatball sub.
Oh,
with cheese, tomato sauce, obviously, lettuce, black olives, green olives.
I'm not a very good Spanish man, but yeah.
Pineapple.
Ooh.
Mushrooms. And I would have it on white bread because rye bread would turn my intestines into Mount St. Helens.
With the cheese added in, I'm sure that's true. So, for our listeners who don't know, the Spaniards' innards are basically a ticking time bomb to world destruction. So,
just picture Syria, and then
Yeah. So, actually, I'm not much better either. So, it's a fragrant place, the recording office here. But okay, so a meatball sub with basically all the toppings available at a Subway.
Yeah.
What it sounds like. All right.
So that, for a side, I would like a bowl of chips. A bowl of chips would probably be a bad idea. So if I were going to go with a side, I'd probably go with a fruit salad. So I could get some fruit in there.
That's a good idea. Fruit salads are delicious. What fruits would you want featured in your fruit salad? So you can pick 5.
5? Banana, apple, strawberries, peaches, grapes.
And that's 5.
That's 5.
That sounds pretty good. It reminds me, my grandmother used to make a good fruit salad that was similar. I think a lot of fruit salads don't have apples in them, and that's a mistake because it's a really good addition.
Yeah, it gives it a bit of crunch. Otherwise, it's just a fruit mush.
Yeah. I think the one I had was she made with apples, bananas, grapefruit slices, mandarin orange pieces, and pineapple, cherries. And I think that I'm forgetting something else, but I'm not sure what. Maybe some kind of melon, if I'm not mistaken. Those are good.
Yeah.
So, all right, and what would you drink for the rest of
What would I
eternity?
drink? It's a toss-up. Either a glass of V8, because it's really healthy,
True.
and because it would help me keep going, or... But it doesn't give you that calming factor. Like if it's a dystopia, you got to have that one kind of comfort thing, right?
That's why I want coffee, because it relaxes me.
So, you know what? I think I may go with chamomile tea with honey.
That's a good idea.
I think I would do that just to keep me calm, as something.
Well, chamomile tea is shown as having some curative effects on digestion.
And I would really
and honey too.
A time like that, I would probably need it more than most.
Yeah.
So.
Anyone in the vicinity of your ass would thank you for not having volatile ingredients put in there. So, the chamomile tea is good.
It gets conditions improve even more. There's a level 4 now.
A level 4.
You get one medicine. What medicine do you eat?
I'm going to eat it every day. I don't really eat medicine every day.
Okay, well, let's say...
Is it just available to me if I need it?
It's available every day now for whenever you need it. Only one, though.
Man. I'm not the type of person who really likes to take medicine very much. So I'm probably going to go with aspirin. Some
sort of pain medication?
Yeah, some kind of painkiller. I get the occasional headache, and I'm not in good shape, so I have muscle and bone pain. So maybe some kind of arthritis painkiller medication, so I could take it when I feel a particularly bad day. That's the only kind of medicine I really take. I don't like to take anything else. How about yourself?
I'd probably also go with pain medication. I was going to say, what about lactase pills, milk pills that you could take before you eat something with milk in it? Which might actually be a good idea because I'm eating milk every day now.
Eating your meatball sub, yeah.
Yeah. But I also need the calcium, so I can't just stop eating it. So, and the particular pill I take now actually has calcium in it. So it's even better. So I don't know, but pain medication.
I'm pretty sure that world would have some pain for us to feel. So, but then again, pain medication can be addictive and can cause constipation. So,
which the cheese would balance out for me. So there you go.
That's true. True. All right, so I guess we're both agreed. Tasty sandwiches and good healthy snacks.
Yeah.
Chamomile tea and pain medication. That's our future.
You get one video game to play.
Oh, you're being kind.
Well, I'm assuming things get a little bit better and better. And this will be the final one. You get one video game. What would that video game be?
Am I allowed to play it with other people? Like, for example, are you there?
Yeah, it does. One game video game with all its components and whatever.
Okay. Well, assuming that you were there, we would each be able to pick a game, so that could be good.
Good thinking.
I would go with... I don't know if there are any games that are so good that I'm able to play them forever.
I think I have one.
Okay, I have a...
I'm going to say mine first so that we could actually balance our choices against each other.
Does it start with an N?
No.
Okay, what's your game?
Street Fighter.
Street Fighter. Which would result in your murder because you would defeat me
but
99 out of 100 times.
Well, but hang on. If it's only one of the two games we're playing,
true.
We eventually become martial artists and we have epic, hour-long battles and stuff like that.
Okay. All right. Okay, so Street Fighter, a good choice. And I'm going to add another game from a similar era to that, which is going to be our personal favorite. A little strange, despite the fact that we're not Canadian, but NHL 94.
Yeah, why did I think of NHL 94?
Because I was going to think of NHL 94, so don't worry. It's covered.
Those two games, I think we'd be set. Because I think in that type of world, we'd have plenty of other things to worry about anyway.
But wait. Does it have to be a video game? Did you say video game? You did say video
I
game,
did
didn't
say
you?
video game. It could be a game. Oh, what?
If it wasn't,
You thinking
if it wasn't
Axis and
video
Allies
game,
or something?
I would think of a board game, either shogi, which is Japanese chess that we've been known to play throughout much of our lives.
Shogi.
Shogi, because
Shogi.
we
You gotta have
can
shogi.
take the board to whatever ruin
Yep.
that we're sitting in at the
Yep.
time and play anywhere.
Yep.
So I might swap the hockey for shogi.
And I'm gonna swap Street Fighter for Jenga. There you go.
Jenga.
There you go.
We would become so skilled at playing Jenga. There could be a battle going on around us, and we'd probably still be able to play it.
I think Jenga is the only game that we can play where no matter who wins or loses, we both laugh and there's no frustration at all. There's zero frustration.
Absolutely.
It's that much fun.
It is. Okay, so I guess the lesson there is that there are always better alternatives for fun than a video game.
Yeah, for sure.
We'd eventually get pretty sick of Street Fighter, I think, and NHL '94. I mean, there's only so many goals that Doug Gilmour can score before I would rip the console out and throw it into the sea. So I think, that would be fun.
Yeah, man.
Because also, while playing Jenga and Shogi, we can have conversations, whereas while playing video games, it's less likely that we would do so.
Absolutely. You know what? I actually feel like after the conclusion of this show that we should play some shogi while talking about stuff.
That's a good idea. Let's do that.
Let's do that.
We've got some ideas that we're trying to iron out anyway.
Yeah,
so we
for
can
sure.
do a shogi.
Okay, well, that pretty much wraps up our show for today. We've gone a little over an hour, but that's okay. We discussed some super interesting things. Flight 370, the end of the world, submarine sandwiches. That's what I consider a good talk. What about you?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I think that the only way we'll ever see anything better is when we do this again next week.
Indeed. Okay, so thanks for listening, guys, and we'll see you then. I am the Spaniard.
I'm Jamal. Thanks for tuning in.
And this was the Internet Paladins.